people have competencies so that where there is no houses, they have jobs to build houses. Where there is no water, they have jobs to provide water. Where there is no healthcare, they have jobs to provide healthcare. And when you are doing this, you have ethics. When you have skills and competencies and you're working, you now start following the laws and your morality improves. And that is the way that you can ensure that we're safe and we are secure and we can enjoy ourselves as well. The third level of using our knowledge capital is to ensure that our country itself emerges as a knowledge and a learning society built on concretely hard work, honesty, discipline, productivity, to the extent that our institutions will become world-class. You can compare it with anywhere. You can come, our banks should be standard, our industries will be standard, and even if there is no government, it will function. So this is the value chain of the three. And those countries that have demonstrated that this is the way to go, we ourselves, we see what they are doing. Their policies are evidence-based, very practical, and well understood on all the sectors they handle. Their science, technology, and innovation system is very vibrant. That knowledge system for the science that is doing research on their problems, finding out the solutions, that is the technology, and deploying the solutions to solve the problems in industry, generating jobs, creating wealth. And their institutions operate on what we call as the institution systems of innovation. They partner together to be stronger, not to build islands and be abusing each other. And they sustain this research and development investment by putting a lot of resources to ensure that the PhDs are realistic. The laboratories are very good. Their workshops are excellent so that the evolution of solutions for their problems are solid. And then they have prioritized technology acquisition focus. They don't just bulldoze everything. They look at their comparative advantages and then they focus on it, get stronger, and then start expanding. And they normally have this science, technology, or knowledge working mentor. In most of the countries that have made it, the president himself realizes that unless you are using knowledge, you cannot make forward. So he becomes the mentor, the champion for utilizing of knowledge. And in some of the countries, if they have raw materials endowment, they will add value to it. They don't export raw things and import finished products. And in those countries that are following through those three steps, they have very strong intellectual property system whereby this knowledge is also an asset, and they transfer the assets to make a lot of resources. And those countries in the last 20, 25, 30 years are very innovative. They deliberately and intensely deploy information and communication technology. That is when you can be omnipresent. That is how you can manage large data. That is how you can make correct and consistent inferences. And then they have a very viable research or knowledge industry linkage whereby their knowledge is flowing and solving problems. And these countries, we call them developed countries. They are the first world countries. They have done it. And they don't have to talk about it. They show you. They are globally, technologically visible. They have large product ranges. Their companies are good. They are the people who run around the world solving problems with their know-how. And this used to be just Europeans and Americans that have dominated this space of solving their poverty, ensuring that they have skills, and then they are maintaining fantastic institutional landscape. But then some countries, particularly in Asia, saw this and realized those lists of secrets, and they followed and they learned and they adapted. And now we are calling them the emerging rich countries, which are the second, because they too, they have those kind of key performance indicators that are mimicking the first world of yesteryears. But there are many countries that are yet to follow. They have not learned or adapted these things. And these are the countries who are developing or least developed or underdeveloped and so on and so forth. And this is where we belong, unfortunately. It means we have not learned, we are not following, and we are not adapting. This clearly, to me, shows that we have to have a more realistic agenda to realize that knowledge is what actually you move to solve your problems, because poverty is our key problem. But this is not new to us. You remember in the 60s, we tried to say that, oh yeah, we can feed our country. We launched Operation Feed the Nation. And then in the 80s, we did the Green Revolution, thinking that we can do all the breeding, we can produce our food, we can run raw materials to our industries, and even export these things. And then when it came down to the 80s and right down to where we are now, you can see so many visions from war against indiscipline. Vision 2010 during the Abacha, targeting the same thing. Then the Obasanjo came, Vision 2020 with the needs, targeting the same thing. May God be with him. President Yaradua came with, again, Vision 2027-point agenda with the same target. Then Jonathan took over. President Jonathan said, no, we want to launch transformation agenda with the same target. And then the present administration initially in their first 4 years came with change mantra. And then now we are at the next level. And then we are targeting back to basics, where we are saying we want to lift 100 million people of Nigerians out of poverty. So you see, we are there. So, and all these things, actually, we want to make our country fantastic so that we are very productive, competitive, and so on and so forth. But we have always returned weak scores. So why? Why do we do this? To me, the unpalatable reason rotate around also the low proactiveness of the Nigerian engineer, because I'm talking to you. Other professionals, yes, you too, but the Nigerian engineer, in my opinion, is one of the very clear culprits, because good engineering and great engineers cannot coexist with poverty. This is reality. If your engineering is good, your knowledge is good, it's translating to applicable solutions, poverty will run away. But how come we have large volume of engineers, engineering and professional institutions, and poverty is increasing? And there's no cutting corners to this. This is just the reality. So we must understand and accept this and do something about it. More specifically, in my opinion, those people in institutions that are generating knowledge must ensure that your universities, your polytechnics, your research institutions, and so on, should stop behaving these training centers and schooling. You must evolve to become centers of excellence in terms of research and development and experimentation on the problems we have, so that you too internally, when you have the solutions, you will start demonstrating that you are a production and industrial center. Many universities in the West have also gotten the science and technology paths. At the gate of the university, it's the same professors, it's the same PhDs, it's the same PhD students, but they are producing and they're demonstrating industrialization. And universities and all this research institutes and so on must realize that they must utilize their knowledge to become enterprises who need to sell their products to survive. Not, universities, everybody is just waiting for budget. Which budget is annual, yearly, you cannot get anywhere. And then our leaders too must understand that these institutions, the universities, the polytechnics, the research institutions, must become tools for collaboration nationally and internationally. And when this is happening, you will see the kind of human capital we have with the teachers, with the researchers. Our students will become very innovative entrepreneurs and leaders. They will have high values, no abusing and causing all sorts of confusion. Everything will become know-how based, and we will have organizational skills and managerial skills because we have run through this transformed institution of knowledge. And because we are like that, we will now recognize the opportunities in our system. Our sun, we should have been the best country for solar energy technology. Our rivers, when it is overflowing and flooding everywhere, killing people and killing animals, should have been knowledge that will now redirect this water to ensure that our animals are feeding, we don't have herdsmen, farmers crisis, because we can manage this, and so on and so forth. And then our social, cultural, and interpersonal capital will become useful, because we are not going to be Yorubas fighting Igbos. Igbos want to cut the country. The Northerners, we are fighting each other. No. When we go through this knowledge transformation, we will become people that are prepared to network and create strong connections, so that we're sharing knowledge, we're sharing experiences, we're sharing difficulties, and we are looking at the opportunities together, so that instead of arguing, we negotiate and we discuss and work jointly. And this is now, together now we can realize our technical capital. When we investigate and discover and develop to incorporate things to solve our problems, solve our poverty, we will be together, and so on and so forth. And then it is only then that you can now start seeing our financial capital will be better generated, will be better managed, and then we will design, start, complete, and everything, our finances will be useful to us. And this triple helix is typical. Engineers and technocrats, when this is happening, must understand that we must be present at government, we are the knowledge generators, we are also present in industry. Don't sit on one side and say we are engineers and Now they leave these politicians. No, we engineers too. We must be political. We must be politicians. We must also become businessmen. We must be in the economic circles. We must also even be clergymen on the moral side, doing things that people can learn. Because basically, technological efficiency becomes, when we are like this and we realize that our own system works, the knowledge industry becomes the usefulness, the core, and that is how we will drive productivity and industry, and that will sustain our development. So key connectivity indicators, if this is working, it's not a magic. We have a space agency here. If this is working, you will see that our space agency will be used not shallowly. We have satellites in the sky. We should be able to look at our villages, monitor our security, see our farms, see the buildings, see how we do our roads and monitor the roads, see where there are accidents and monitor them, design our railways because our knowledge is working, and then see the transmission system in terms of electricity are totally not disturbed and modernized. And we will be able to, using our communication satellite, ensure that digital capability is everywhere. With our communication satellite, literally every primary school in Nigeria should have internet connectivity. But no, we have not realized that this value of knowledge, and we're just joking with it. If we were effective, we will see our libraries will be like this too. When you enter, you can only be intelligent in this environment. And then our laboratories will be like this. There's no way you can sit here and get a PhD and come out and start abusing the government or whatever. And our farms will change to reflect that we have knowledge. Biotechnology will be with our small-scale farmers so that even our herdsmen will not be moving up and down because their cows will have this kind of udder. This kind of cows does not move up and down eating people's farms and so on. And this is a product of knowledge. And then our own small-scale industries will reflect that we know. Our own even basic manufacturing facilities will look at like this, and our agricultural system will have both the small and big, but in the modern way to demonstrate that we are knowledge-based. And these are possible. I'm not joking, but we have to change and ensure that it is not business as usual. If we think we can transform from knowledge-based to solve our poverty problem and development, we have to match our words with actions. We have to lead well using knowledge and follow well using knowledge. We have to be systematic and strategic. Concentrate on areas of comparative advantage, move slowly, expand based on merits, and then reflect and improve your monitoring, your evaluation. Our own impact assessment should be very, very dynamic. And I'll conclude with just one example. To unleash the merits of engineering knowledge capital for poverty eradication of Nigeria, I have this example for you. You see, there are things that in this country that happen that we must resolve to do it together. I call them the One Nigeria resolution. When you see people dancing on television, One Nigeria carrying flags and so on, that's not the way to go. We must say, for example, Boko Haram is killing the economy and people in the Northeast. This should be a national problem. We shouldn't just leave it to the Northeast people. It should be a One Nigeria. So I use it as an example. Look, if you are coming from the UK and you want to come to Nigeria and you are new, and you go to the Commonwealth office, foreign office for advice. I want to go to Nigeria. What can you advise me? You get given this map. And this map is the insecurity map of Nigeria. The red that you see in the northeast, the people in the UK advise you that don't go to this area. This is totally against all travel. They are killing each other and they will kill you. The orange looking areas, Niger Delta, middle bit in Kogi, and some of the Northwest and so on, the advice on this map is that you are advised against all but essential travel. Unless your mother is dying, don't go to these areas too. The green areas that you see, these are the best areas of Nigeria, but these too, they advise you, see our travel advice before traveling, because you could be killed there too. So literally, the image we have out of Nigeria based on our, in quote, either irresponsibility or poverty or whatever, is not a good thing for all Nigerians. So in my opinion, is it possible that we can work together to get the northeast of Nigeria to catch up the second stage so that we will all be only two stages, advise against all but essential or see our travel. Or we may work harder with our knowledge to change Nigeria to all be green so that it is only see our travel advice before traveling. Or maybe we can use our knowledge and work harder, push our universities, push our research institutions, push our polytechnics to work so hard, producing the critical mass of knowledge people so that we can actually clear everything, so that we can say, travel anytime to Nigeria, you have no problem. I believe it's possible. But then I designed a very simple project here. I call it the Northeast Empowerment Corridor. This is the beginning for the Northeast. And I said, look, the Northeast is made up of 6 states. Now, if you're coming from Jos and you hit Bauchi by road, you come to a roundabout. If you go left, you go to Yobe, you continue on that road, you go to Borno State, you continue on that road, you come to Adamawa State, you continue down to Ganye, you go to Taraba, and then you pop out through Numan, you hit Gombe State, and then you come to Bauchi State. Actually, this is only one road. It's a roundabout, literally. Only one road. It is not hundreds of roads. It is only one road. And this road is not a nice road. It's one of the worst death traps in Nigeria. You know, this is how it is. Things cannot come out. You cannot make things comfortably. Even if you produce your farm produce, it will not go well. Therefore, no matter what you do, your poverty will either be there or continue increase. So I said to myself, if we pick this roundabout and we say that we're going to provide infrastructure, and we say, look, first of all, can we just along this roundabout create an open canal irrigation infrastructure using our knowledge, something like this, to say that all this water that is flooding people, killing people, can we be able to guide that water to be running around in this roundabout so that people can have water for their animals, people can use it all year round on agriculture, and I cannot see this happening and poverty will survive. Is it also possible around this roundabout that we can have treat some of this water and lay a pipe near this water canal, 2-meter lay pipe? Libyans did it. And you treat the water and you're just running clean water. Any state that needs clean water can punch it and pull it so that we can be able to get our people to drink clean water, and then the poverty will come down. Is it also possible that we can be able to follow this roundabout using our knowledge to design, build, operate and maintain a dual carriage like we have on the road to the airport, going around the 6 states in the Northeast, so that we can be able to demonstrate the world that our universities, our engineering is working, so that we can have solid. I have not seen a country with this kind of infrastructure and then high poverty. Is it also possible to take advantage of the current drive on railway so that we use our knowledge? We know how to process the steel. We know how to survey the areas. We can lay the railway tracks. We can even design and manufacture our trains around this roundabout so that we can be able to put this infrastructure. On top of that, I said to myself, is it possible to now come up with our knowledge together as Nigerians to now commission fantastic facility for transmitting power around this roundabout, this single road roundabout, so that we can be able to finish off the Mambila power and harvest the power and energize the zone, harvest the solar energy in this zone to now incorporate it, and so on and so forth. And finally, is it possible to now push the communication satellite, lay fiber around this so that we can be able to have internet connectivity, automating everything based on our knowledge. And then if you do this, in my opinion, you will now start having Bauchi, Maiduguri, Damaturu, Yola to become mega cities, because there's nowhere where you can have this infrastructure and you will not change it. This Northeast will change forever. The banditry will disappear. These herdsmen, farmers will disappear. You will start having dairy, beef and skin hide industry. You will have all year round agriculture. You will have food and agro-allied industry popping out all over the place. You will have quality human capital because everybody has skills and competencies. Entrepreneurship and prosperity will be everywhere. And effectively, that zone will industrialize based on innovation. But then it is only a closed corridor. So you tend to wonder, then how will it work, Dr. Bindir? I said, well, now include Benue State. They are also having the same challenges. They also have flooding. Their poverty is very high too. Punch it to Cross River too. They are not part of the oil producing states. They are very energetic governor. They are also trying with their poverty wahala. So talk to them and punch Nigeria using the same infrastructure so that you can have the roundabout in the Northeast and you can have that needle punching it so that you can have the Calabar port now opens Nigeria. And I'm telling you, if we do this corridor connected like that, you have changed Nigeria forever. because Nigeria will now demonstrate to the world world-class quality infrastructure. And effectively, the north-south connectivity is now on, and you will have quality and timely industrial export. Meat will be coming out, gas will be moving, petrol will be moving, electricity will be moving, and you'll have effective energy supply, and the technology supply will be solid, entrepreneurship and prosperity will be there, and effectively, Nigeria will be industrialized because you have now opened 2 channels. Lagos is connecting on the top, and then the northeast through Calabar and Benue is connected. And this is what, in my opinion, an enhanced national development plan. So the way forward on how, I will conclude with 2 or 3 slides now. How do you do this? You know, we have to have, using our knowledge, evolve a deliberate regional development policy based on this, and be able to pull all these governors, irrespective of whether they're PDP or APC, shock treat them with this idea. Get the other 2 governors so that they are 8, and say, look, is it possible that we can do this? In fact, get all their local government chairmen, their ward councillors, their senators, their House of Reps, who are the political leaders, to realize that this is the way to go. It doesn't matter whether it takes 20 years or whatever, but everybody should be working at their level. And then we have to evolve a deliberate regional development policy and proceed to implement. In my opinion, when I drew this in last year, 2020, to 2024, it can be done. And we commission a technical feasibility study. Don't go and bring PricewaterhouseCoopers or whatever. Use the capacity of Nigerians. Believe that we have that knowledge. Let us use the Air Force to fly aircraft, use drones there, and then come up with a technical feasibility study. 2 months is enough. And then use Nigerians, those professionals in business and management, finance and banking, and land resources, so that they can prepare a bankable project document, you know, and then all these our professionals in financial should now come up with investment and deployment model, PPP, and so on and so forth. And then also our financial experts will now come up with the resource mobilization and technical partnership we require. And then, number 5, establish manufacturing base. So when you are putting the potable water pipe, don't buy the pipes from China. Put a pipe casting and curing and manufacturing in Gombe. When you need copper cables for electricity, put one in Damaturu so that we are extruding and pulling our cables no matter where we're getting the raw materials. If you're doing the ceramics for the trapezoidal canal for the water, do it in Yola, so that you can be able to establish a manufacturing base, and then you are making things, and then you can start construction and establishing the corridor. And I think in the bureaucracy, we can use our national, professionals, engineers from University of Lagos, from Ibadan, from Maiduguri, from Taraba, set them into a technical task force, and then engage the Northeast Development Commission, because there's a facility already, and establish an office for corridor development. Then, as I said before, the technocrats will now evolve a project preliminary scope, advertise and procure all these consultants who are Nigerians, and enter into contractual obligations, and then commence with the work. And I think we must all remember, for using knowledge to solve poverty, we must have a deliberate use of local content, the academia, the local technocrats, the local businesses, everything has to be local. We have to open our eyes and see how others are developing and develop our country. And I hope with all these, I have demonstrated to you very briefly the urgent and imperative need to utilize our local knowledge capital for poverty eradication in Nigeria. Literally, how engineers and other professionals can resolve to change this country for the better. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you very much, Engineer. Should I now say Engineer Professor Umar Bindir? And thank you for keeping to the time. And without wasting time, just as I said earlier, it's going to be an interactive session. He has just watered the ground, and we are going to go now into questions and interaction, because the aim is for us to discuss extensively on the issues raised and look at options or solutions we can offer for us to solve the many problems of this country, as enumerated by Engineer Bindir. So please, if you have a contribution, if you have a question, you can indicate by raising your hand. I will unmute you and you make your comment. Okay, I can see Dr. Uzodimma. Okay, Dr. Uzodimma, unmute yourself. After then, we have Professor Peter Onwalu.
Okay. First, I want to thank and congratulate Engineer Dr. Bindir for the excellent talk. I am encouraged that with his experience as a former secretary to the Adamawa state government and somebody who is very high up in leadership in the country, that he has encapsulated this intervention approach and is bringing it in. I am the national president of Nigeria Association of Evaluators, and I am of the view that one of the things that has really made us be where we are instead of where we ought to be is the poor application of evaluation, reviews, analysis, accountability to the things we did and we do. And what Engineer Bindir has done is to give us an approach to be innovative about this. He has talked about the Northeast Cross River Development Corridor. That is doable. But the challenge is that we operate budgets, for instance, that seek to do projects, but at the end of the day, nobody knows, nobody accounts for the way the project has been done. I'll give you a critical example. We have just launched another development plan to follow the ERGP, Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. But I'm still looking for a thorough evaluation and analysis of ERGP that will now show us what exactly happened, what did we do well and did not do well, professionally provided, not politically provided, so that it would have guided the new one that is following it. So if we can do things that way, then we can pick this approach. The good thing about the approach that Dr. Bindir has provided is that it is replicable. You can replicate it at the national, state, regional, local, and community level. Thank you, sir, for this. And I look forward to our having more of this. And then to get the country to the next stage, we need serial accountability and evaluation of efforts so that we can learn from them and then build on the next one. If not, we will not really, the next one may not work if the previous one didn't achieve much. Thank you. And thank you, sir.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. Engineer Professor Peter Onwalu.
Yeah, thank you, moderator. Yeah, let me start by thanking my good friend, Dr. Bindir. I can never be tired of listening to him. Each time he makes a presentation, I always try to listen because I know I will learn something. He touched on a number of issues, part of which are things that we were working together in the past. I remember in one of his lectures some years back, he presented something similar to this at the national level, that is the North-South Development Corridor. These ideas are great, very great ideas. I think the organizers of this forum, I believe that you will have to sift through this. But the major challenge I have, and that's what I want him to address, is how do we break through the political class? The good thing is that he started as a researcher and then moved into politics, and now he's back to research, even though he's still a politician. But we seem to still have a problem. The problem is breaking through the political class, because without them, the political will, if it's not there, I see our governors still doing individual silo kind of projects. I want him to address this more. But I think that if we are to succeed, and actually the background is already laid. I know we have Northeast Development Commission now. We also have Niger Delta Development Commission. And I believe that all the other zones are also working on their own development commission. Unfortunately, sometimes we confuse these economic development commissions with restructuring. And so some politicians don't want political restructuring into zones. But I think if we come from the angle of economic development, this idea, I believe, will sell. So I want him to address a little more how we can break through the political class to be able to move some of these ideas to actual implementation. As he's going to do that, I also want him to address, I know in the past, he was involved, myself, I was involved in discussions and dialogue on how to establish a functional national system of innovation in Nigeria. That idea seemed to have died. It's also something that can be integrated into the wonderful proposal that he has for developing our economy. So I want him to address that, the issue of having a functional national system of innovation and linking that to the economic development corridor for Northeast he has just presented. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Professor Peter Onwalu, for your contribution. Quickly, before I bring on board back Dr. Bindir, I have also a comment on the comment box. It says, okay, I think I have to read them out for Doctor to address all of them once. This is from Engineer Professor Yopele Beredugo. The problem is that there is no political will in Nigeria. The present religious political leadership at both federal and state levels will not provide the required political will. Then another question is, why as the SSG to Adamawa State government, were you able to push the idea of the North-East South-South Development Corridor? This is from Jimson Olufuye. So I think, my prof, you can address the issues raised so that we can also take some other questions. I think after that, we take from Aliu MA.
Yeah. Actually, thank you very much, Ben. Most of the questions are actually radiating around how can we do this, or is it possible for us to do it today? My prof, Professor Onwalu, said, how do we break the political jinx to ensure that these things happen? You see, if you read between the lines in my presentation, it is submitting that engineers must also become politicians. Engineers must also become industrialists. Engineers should not just stay in academia. Engineers must be civil servants. We must penetrate everywhere and ensure that we literally create an environment for osmosis, for our technical knowledge base to enter the others. So I am not a politician, but I worked with politicians and I learned how they think and why they think they are a group. And I managed in 4 years to survive. I think someone left their mic on. Yeah, I managed to survive. And some of my boys here, Khalil Sajo here, who is my boy there, he knew how I survived. But Ben, we must participate and we must ensure, professionals must ensure that those professionals that have decided to participate in politics, if you give them space, they will be absorbed by the others and they will start behaving differently. Our structures in terms of our own network, our working together, calling them to participate in the activities of the professions, ensuring that they always remember they are from a knowledge constituency and that Nigerian knowledge actually should work. It should be the art. We all sit as engineers, and this country has thousands and thousands of civil engineers who are very, very professional and hardworking. But yet, every time you see a road, I will just take example one road, nice road, whether in the south-south or in the southeast or in the northeast or anywhere our leaders are cutting a tape to commission a road, you will see one white man or Chinese or Lebanese behind there. That is the knowledge. And we shouldn't, it's not like we are nepotic, but you never allow your knowledge to become second fiddle. We want from the design, from the deployment, the operation and maintenance, we should be able to deploy our knowledge. And this, we don't need to fight against, we just need to reactivate it. And then, I think somebody mentioned that there's no political will. If we think the politicians are one side and knowledge workers are the other side, I don't think it will work. We have to ensure that the will is Nigerian will, not political, because once you now push it to the president or the other politicians, it's not going to work. When I was SSG, I tried to innovatively create one forum. I said to the governor, Governor, every year you need to meet with all the other elected people at least twice a year. If you leave them like that, if the governor doesn't like the senator, they will never see eye to eye and they will quarrel and tear the state apart. So I said, have a conference. I brought my academic experience. I said, you are the chair, sir. Let the senators come. Let them tell you what they're trying to do for your state at the Senate. Bring the members of the House of Reps so that they can tell you what they are trying to do in the House of Reps for your state and Nigeria. Bring down your members of the State Assembly. Let them talk here and understand what is happening at the federal and how they are going to translate it at the state level, down to the ward councillors. But you know what happened? I did not succeed because I was alone. I was fighting this to get this conference so that I will document, you said this, we resolved this, and I was going to deploy a timeline approach. We said we're going to achieve 1, 2, 3, 4, so we did not achieve it. Why? So this we have to continue. I didn't get annoyed and throw it away. I continued until the last day. I think we professionals, we must ensure that this knowledge works. So that is what I tried to do as SSG, Oga Jimson Olufwe. There are many other things I have tried, we can share it, but I think this is a forum for interaction and you don't want me to be speaking all the time. Thank you, Ben.
All right, thank you very much, Prof. Quickly, may Engineer Aliu MA, please can you unmute your mic and make your comment?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Let me start by congratulating the organizers and Dr. Bindir for this wonderful, thought-provoking idea and presentation. Let me be quickly, because what I'm going to say is anchored on what the previous speaker said. From the presentation of Dr. Bindir, he highlighted a lot of development programs that commenced even before we, the youth, were not born, up to date with ERGP. And the fear has always been political will. Can we at this point take a stop and a deep breath to say, okay, can we now bring private will instead of political will? Because there are a lot of private resources lying fallow on top. A lot of resources can be harnessed into provision of public infrastructure through the new model, the now new model PPP issues. Can this presentation be harnessed into thematic areas where private effort can be done, even if public can join in due course? Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments before I invite Engineer Bindir to respond? If you have any question, you can raise. Okay. Dr. Uzodinma again. I can see Engineer Ibitoye. Okay, Engineer Ibitoye, can you, Kilomodemo, can you unmute your mic?
Good afternoon. Am I audible, please?
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you so much. I want to start by appreciating the organizers of this program, and that is under the leadership of Engineer Ben Osioko, our great fellow. Thank you so much for bringing us on board. And secondly, I want to appreciate our versatile engineer, our own dear leader, Engineer Bindir Umar, FNIC. We appreciate you, sir. This is an eye-opener. You are not just doing it, you have been doing it. And you have really dealt with this topic. Like the last speaker said about political will. I think the issue of political will depends on individuals. Some people get to power and they turned a different person. It does not matter that the political will has not helped, but it is only that instead of being influential, instead of being impactful, but he has really made it personal. So in this situation, how do we take the Nigerian set of engineers or engineering to a greater height? How do you become a good leader? How do you portray your leadership qualities? It depends on individuals. It depends on the way you were brought up, and it depends on the focus you have in attaining any position. So what I would just say at this moment is we should be mindful of ourselves. Leadership of the country, of any state or any society depend on how we see it. We should put sentiments apart. We should always gear up for the for the best. We should always look at the antecedents of whoever that will be put in any leadership position. Engineer Bindir, we are very close when he was the SSG at Adamawa State. He was not only SSG at Adamawa State, he was too close to even his professional body. You will see some people when they get to that position, they will even abandon where they were coming from. They will have forgotten the source, but he is a leader to emulate. So at this junction, I want to thank you, Engineer Ben Osi, for this great opportunity. It is good for all of us, and this is where we need to tell the whole world that engineers, we are ready. When we are put in position of authority, we are ready, but we should be mindful at the same time of knowing who and who should be saddled with the responsibility of any society or association. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you very much. And in our Vice President of the Nigerian Society of Engineers, Engineer Ibitoye Kilomodemo, you're welcome. I can see the hand of Engineer Dr. Uzodinma. In a minute, please, can you make your comment so that we can also bring back Engineer Bindir?
Mr. Chair, I'm here also.
Okay. Okay, Yori Adamu.
Thank you very much.
After Dr. Uzodinma, you can now make your comment so that Bindir will respond.
Thank you.
Let me say that I am not an engineer. I am attending because Engineer Dr. Bindir is somebody I met very recently as chairman of a technical working group in which I am a member. And I found his output very, very worthy of listening to. So when I got to know about it, it says an opportunity to learn something again from him. And he has not disappointed. But then the country is not for engineers or doctors alone. The country is for all of us, and we're all stakeholders. So I would also continue to encourage us, especially engineers and scientists. All of us that are participating in this program are paying one man. All of us that are participating in this program now are making payments to one man who may probably be drinking coffee now or playing golf, but he has established Zoom. And so we are all his customers. We make us, we pay him. He doesn't know us. Which brings me to the issue of knowledge-based economy. Engineer Dr. Bindir talked about when we are commissioning our road, there is a white man behind. We need a knowledge, an economy that is powered by knowledge, not really by oil, more by knowledge, that you do not need excessive space in order to manage. And that comes from education in science, technology, and infrastructure. We need to do that. And then in order to get there, in addition or in support of all that Engineer Dr. Bindir has said, we need to try to build great partnerships in country and with other people. Partnership with people who think alike from various professions, various backgrounds, various sectors, so that we will all be mobilizing ourselves at the same time. We need to continue to advocate for change. We should not be tired. He mentioned that when he was SSG, he made an effort, he didn't succeed, but it is recorded that he made an effort. He has done something somebody else can build on or copy. So we need to make that effort. We need to continue to advocate. We need to continue to communicate. We need to continue to mobilize people. Then we must not forget research. It is very important to keep researching and documenting the things that are happening and providing and suggesting new ways of getting to where we want to get to. Capacity development is also very important, both in engineering and cross-cutting areas and science and technology. People need to know. Let us see whether we need to change or adjust any of our curricula in education or the way we learn. Learning is not all inside school. Out of school learning should also be encouraged. And then we need to take some of these things to people that need them. It is not everybody that is able to subscribe to Zoom and participate in this meeting in 20 minutes of notice. Let us find ways, and ways exist, to really take some of this critical information that we have seen and know about to people who can, in ways and languages and places they can see it and understand it with us. And then the issue of evidence generation. We need evidence-based research in terms of monitoring, evaluation, reporting, and data management. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, sir. Please, can we mute our mics? May I bring on all right. I think we have muted the mics. Please, can I bring in the next speaker, Aliu? Is that Aliu that raised his hand before?
No, it's Adamu. Shafiu
Adamu,
Yauri.
sorry, Yauri Adamu.
Yes, yes. Thank you very much, moderator, for giving me the opportunity. And sorry, I'm just joining a bit late in the program. And I listened to the part when Dr. Umar Bindir was speaking. I know him as an erudite scholar and an expert engineer and also an expert IP scholar. Let me state the fact that Dr. Umar has said it as it is. I think the issue begins with us. Let us all copy what Dr. Bindir has done in our individual capacities. Let us try to push the frontier forward. Although I'm not an engineer, I'm a lawyer, and in the IP field, I want to put it across to the engineers. How many engineers can we say are playing the role that they are supposed to play? Just like Dr. Umar Bindir has informed us about what he did in his spare and in his angle. How many of us have done it the Nigerian way? As an engineer, you sign a document that you are not supposed to sign when you know a project is not doing well, and yet you okay that project. from our but the building collapse we're having today, to mechanical issues we're having in industries, to the many myriad challenges that we are having. It goes back to our engineers. So the challenge is that individually, we must come forward and do the right thing. And if we take it this way, I believe the little corners that we have will converge together and we will get the ultimate. And the ultimate is to have a country that understands that we are in the fourth industrial era revolution, while we are still in the first era, and we need to be in that game with other nations. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Oyekunle, please can you unmute? Oyekunle.
Thank you very much, sir.
You can
Good
go
afternoon,
on.
sir.
We can hear you. Go on.
Okay, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
And thank you, sir. Thank you, sir, for the for this opportunity. Although it comes so late, according to Dr. Yuzo Dima, he really hasn't placed the foundation of what I want to ask for and request from the senior men that are in this house. So if I look at the range of people that are here in this meeting, I'm saying doctor, engineer, they are all senior ones. So the question I want to put forward is this: what we see, or the body of engineers, how are they harnessing, and those who that still that we are giving them? Because I happen to attend one Korean meeting like that, a Korean assembly, and there are two engineering schools. There are one in Sapele, one in Ondo State. I met the registrar, and they were like, they don't know. They don't know that those schools that are best training in practical. I believe they to harness the young upcoming engineers. So I'm speaking as a young engineer because I'm still growing. I want to be like you people that are this in this meeting. So I'm speaking on behalf of myself and for them themselves. Please, we request that this knowledge that you people have, find a means to pass it on to us, bring us closer to yourself so that we will listen. So that what you are trying to lay, the foundation you are trying to lay, will go even after you are no more. Will be able to still maintain your legacy. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and I hope and pray that it continues.
Okay, thank you very much. Quickly, I think I have to bring us back to the topic of discussion. I think we are gradually trying to digress from the subject under discussion. For those who are just joining us, we are not talking about engineering problems in Nigeria or how to provide solutions to all engineering problems. The topic that Engineer Bindir treated is the urgent and imperative need to utilize the local knowledge capital for poverty eradication in Nigeria. So I think our questions and our comments should be tailored towards that so that we be on the same page. Thank you. Musa Yerima, please, can you unmute and speak?
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Let me stand on the existing protocol. My own is a contribution. My contribution is this. Doctor has made a presentation, which I can call a technical presentation, which is feasible. Technically, it is feasible. And I think the implementation of this proposal or this technical proposal will actually eradicate poverty because people will have so many things to do, and then a lot of development will come and opportunities and so on. So with this, I think the next line of action we need to be looking into, because I notice in most of our presentation, we do a very wonderful technical presentation, very wonderful. And then it is obvious that it is implementable. But most of the times, what we normally miss, or in most cases, what we miss is the implementation itself, because the implementation of all these projects are tied to finance. But we don't go into the details of finance, the financial implications. So what I'm suggesting is, in this kind of wonderful presentation, it is also very important if we can make a financial, or maybe let me say a physical, financial feasibility studies, so that it will be obvious, it will be clear to the listeners. After looking at the beauty about the technical proposal, we also see the financial attraction on it. And if possible, we now liaise with other professionals in order to make their own input on the financial feasibility. So as a presentation, so that it will be a full package, and we can now see whether it is feasible or not feasible, because sometimes you look at it technically and it's very okay, but when you look at the financial aspect, you know, you need investors and so on. Hello. 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 Hello.
I think we're having problem with your network, Yerima. Okay, can you run off?
So basically what I'm saying is we should try to be expanding our presentations if possible with some ingredients of financial feasibility studies, so that it will be a full package, and then it will at least, after it will attract you both and then you can obviously see the feasibility, and you can appreciate it the more. If it involves if it requires to involve other profession. So that is my own contribution. Thank you very much.
All right, Engineer Yerima. Dr. Bindi, to add to what somebody raised, I have looked for the group managing director of NNPC, Mere Kiari, who joined us earlier, whether it seems he has gone out. I believe he will still join. Just yesterday, I saw a video trending in the social media. That is by former Senator Dino Melaye, that NNPC wrote to the Accountant General, I think so, stating that they will not be contributing anything to the country's revenue for 2 months. There is an indication that there is no money in the system. And I have looked at what all the presentations you made. Everything you talked about was on how to solve the problem of poverty in the country. And I get worried, because why I get worried is this. If you look at where the world is going to now, globally, everywhere, the top richest men in the world, they are not manufacturers of anything. You talk about the owner of Amazon, you talk about the owner of Facebook, you talk about the owner of WhatsApp. WhatsApp, the young guys that produce WhatsApp and sold it to Facebook, sold it at $16-point-something billion. You talk about in Nigeria, you talk about Linda Ikeji, a young lady who doesn't manufacture anything, but She owns a blog where she just posts news of things that happen every day, but she lives in Banana Island. She drives Bentley, lives larger than most of the biggest guys we have in town that own many manufacturing companies. What am I trying to say? Our governors, every month, they come to Abuja with their hands open to take from the federal allocation. And everybody knows that without those allocations, some states cannot pay salary. So, and you look, in these states, you have young men and women who are graduates, who are potential. Many of them studied computer engineering, computer sciences in the best universities in this country and even outside the world. And we know that apps, computer is what is trending now. Why can't these governors invest in these young guys, bring them together, let them develop an app? Alibaba today doesn't own any company. He's almost one of the richest men in China. What does he have? It's just a platform where people come and buy things. We can build many Alibabas in each of these states by bringing these young guys together, equipping them, giving them all the necessary trainings they need. So that, and I believe that if we invest in them, in the next couple of years, make it a 10 years, 20 years project, I tell you, we are going to be having in Nigeria apps that will drive the whole world. I think we need to change our strategy. Just like about Einstein said, that we cannot, is insanity if you continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I think we need to change our strategy because this oil something is no longer working. Coming to Abuja every time, it's no longer working. The economy is going down. I think the state governors, the local government chairmen, at every level, we begin to invest in human capital. Let us make it a 10 or 15 years project. I believe that if we begin to change our strategy, we may be preparing for a very good future for this country, because that is where the world is heading to. And others are already doing it. In other countries, states are owning applications, and people are keen into all this. Look at just within 1 year, look at the fortune of Zoom. Before 2 years, before now, 2 years ago, nobody was talking about Zoom. But within a space of 1 year, go and check what Zoom has turned into. And that fortune can drive any state in Nigeria for more than 10 years. It's more than the budget of a state for more than 10 years. So what are we talking about? So I think we have to really change our strategy in line with what Dr. Bindir presented today. So Dr. Bindir, I hand over to you again to respond to some of the issues. Okay, I can see Engineer Chibo raising his hand. Please, Engineer Chibo, Engineer Chris Chibo, can you unmute yourself and speak?
Thank you, Ben. I just joined. I've been having difficulties with connecting to you. Yes, I've not listened to the paper, but having heard, the caption, poverty for the people of Nigeria, I feel I should just let you have, some ideas that, I had in the past. That was in 1990 when I wrote a paper on contract consultancy. This contract consultancy is this, that we cannot compete with the third world because they have gone, what I call terror technology has taken over the world, miniaturization of technology, which we cannot compete with. But what we can do is this. We have machines flying all over, the Chinese are here with their machines, Europeans, the Julius Bergers, when they were here. What we said, in short, that was the basis of the starting of Nigerian sort of engineers in Abuja, was to reduce the number of machines we have and then get the local nationals involved in development, which is enormous. I give you an example. My village, we produce gari, a lot of gari in the past, and we ship them, to up north here, to Kano, but now we cannot do that. Why? Because the existing railway line that made Manchester what it is has just gone crumbled. And because it has crumbled, all the towns and villages along the railway line, which made Nigeria what it is today, 70% of Nigerian population is residing along the railway line. The towns declined. Enugu, Mina, Kano, Kaduna, all declined. Umar, Aba. And I'm saying, if you want to get, people busy and then, putting food on their table, you need to get back, these railway lines as it is, as it was, I mean. And this railway line was built by hand, no machines. Why can't we? All the excavations, done here in Abuja, something, that's not anything below, above, 2 meters. And we said we can put it as a rule that nobody should use machine to dig anything above, 2 meters. Then you create massive employment for these fellows, who are going around, with a bomb man or something like that. I see people, with pickaxe. They will stay for 1 week, 3 weeks. Nobody will invite them. But there are jobs to be done. If the railways in those days were built by hand, why can't we now build our city 50% by hand? But we prefer not to hand it over to the multinationals. They come here with their machines, create employment for their industries, right? The machine making companies, leaving nothing for us, only to hand over, to us terror technology that we cannot even manage when it is done. We have the railways constructed now, but you see the Chinese are the ones that will come to drive it. What is the big deal about operating railways? What of the big deal about we have over 50 or 80 stations of railway line in Nigeria. This railway line, once you get the what do you call it? The lines working, you create 80 markets immediately. Be it in Jos, be it in Enugu, be it in Umuahia and all what. You have big markets there. But these markets are crumbled. They are no more functioning because you cannot link them. What are you talking about? Computer. Yes, computer is necessary. But then at the same time, you have to give the downtrodden employment. And that's the theme of this discussion today. Poverty alleviation. How do we do that? Not handing over money, but creating employment. And how do you create employment? Reduce the machines that Europeans are using, or what do you call multinationals are using in construction in Abuja or Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Chibo, for your contribution. I can see, who is iPhone Bello? Please, iPhone Bello.
Yes,
you can unmute.
Yeah, good afternoon.
And then introduce yourself well so that we can know.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Architect Bello, MB Bello. Okay. I know Dr. Bindir very well. As a matter of fact, I got the notice, just about 30 minutes before the presentation, and I told him that definitely we'll try to be present. I wish to congratulate this forum for putting up this very important project, and also appreciate Dr. Bindir, who is a personal friend, and we have known for a very long time since his days at Notab, and even when he was in Adamawa State. I appreciate the presentation. As a matter of fact, I was golfing, so I carried it along with me and was listening to him all along. And all he said was really very interesting and very eloquent. Now, something missing. One or two speakers before now addressed the issue of funding projects. I think one of the key and fundamental problems we have in Nigeria is about how to fund our projects. Any idea can be very beautiful, and Dr. Bindir really comes up with very brilliant idea. I think what the country must look at is how to unlock our potentials in the solid minerals sector. We are known to have over 15 trillion worth of solid minerals in bitumen, in gold, in diamond, and just name it. But unfortunately, that sector remains under lock. Is it not possible for us to, with the experience of Dr. Bindir, to look at how we can put it to auction, trade it in, and see how we can derive some promissory note or commercial papers out of them with a view to putting this to good use in the development of our country to realize all the objectives that we have at, in our portfolios. I think that's the big way to do it. Now, regarding the one last speaker that spoke about the ICT, the Ministry of Economy and Communication, Digital Economy and Communication, they have some very interesting program which they have been doing, which is quite nice, by supporting youth development in ICT. And as a matter of fact, a few days ago, I saw in the media where the Honorable Minister granted about 2 million each or so to some ICT persons. But I think the nexus of the government support to ICT to the individual and government derivative, translating it into our own development is what we really have to work out. And I believe you as engineers will have to know how they can do that creativity. Well, granted, Alibaba is a Chinese man. Okay, he set up Alibaba, so he's able to put all of his assets maybe in China or so, and he creates a lot of employment from the back end there from China. But in the ICT, in most ICT firms that you find around, they create it, but they would rather prefer to put their money in US dollars outside the country or so. So how do we get them to bring it back to the country? So I think moving forward, as a matter of fact, I'm supposed to be having a program with Dr. Bindir, and I'm very excited to have been part of this. Moving forward, I think Dr. Bindir, with all his experience, will probably add that component of financing, leveraging on these major assets that we have, ICT, solid mirrors, and so on and so forth. I think with that, by the time we're able to provide an appropriate solution in this direction, we'll have made tremendous progress, and the world will be chasing us behind. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And once again, Dr. Bindri, thank you very much, and we look to talk later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Other hand raised to respond to the questions raised and the comments. Thank you.
Should I go ahead? Can you hear me, Ben?
I can hear you, sir.
All right, then. I think all the comments are correct. But my submission is there are two things. On one side, we have absolute poverty consuming our country. The characteristics of absolute poverty is people. These people have no money. These people have bad houses. These people are drinking bad water. These people don't have access to good infrastructure. Their children are not going to school. They are not eating well. And we have a lot of them in this country. And this is causing problems for us. It is causing insecurity. It is causing corruption. It is causing bad image. So on the other side, we said knowledge, right? Knowledge, formally branded knowledge, are why we go to school. This is why we are engineers. This is why we are lawyers. This is why we are architects. This is why we are doctors. This is why we are pilots. And the area where we come from, where we get this knowledge, are universities. We have them. I told you we have more than 200 universities. South Africa doesn't have this list. Israel does not have this list. You get what I mean? We have hundreds of polytechnics, colleges of education. nearly 600 research organizations doing cassava, yam, automobile, ICT, and so on and so forth. So, and here we are, and what I'm saying, I'm submitting through this presentation is that Nigeria must understand that its own knowledge capital must work for it. Otherwise, we're not going anywhere. Its own knowledge capital must find a way of changing these people so they become people who have nice houses, people who are also drinking clean water, people also who are eating 3 square meals, drinking milk, eating fried egg with chips, and so on and so forth. This is the 2 gaps. And I'm telling you, any country, and we have seen it, most of us here, when we travel, we like going to England, we got to go to America and so on. When we get there, you don't see this type of poverty, not that it is zero. You can see somebody on the street, he's smoking Indian hemp, he has taken drugs and so on and so forth, but that is by choice. Our own, these are not by choice. It is their life. There are people in this country from all parts of Nigeria, from north to south to east to west, that will spend 70 years without seeing an electric switch. They have not seen it ever. So now the talk is not about, like Ben said, not about blaming engineers. It's just because it is an engineering platform and I want to brand it a little bit so that I give Ben his value for money. But it is not targeting engineering, right? I would have spoken to doctors too. I would have said it's doctors' fault. I would have spoken to architects. I would have submitted that it's architects' fault. But the general thing is that we, people who are custodians of knowledge, people who are giving knowledge out, people who are generating knowledge out, this knowledge is not working for Nigeria, and it needs to work for Nigeria. When I gave you an example of when we are commissioning roads, when we are cutting the tape to say that this road is open, you see that Lebanese, or that Egyptian, or that Chinese, or that European. That is where the knowledge is. Nigerians should be able to realize that this is the model and we need to learn and grow. And I will summarize all the questions with one example, Ben. I'm a Fulani man, right? And Fulanis are known for cows and milk. I schooled in England. And when I was a student, you will get given, I mean, many of my bosses here knows, you will get given 2 bottles of milk in front of your house, free of charge. That is welfare. Why? Because milk is very, very important for you. Your brain, your eyesight, your bones, your body, and whether you are old or young or whatever, milk is a standard food. So they don't want you to come from Nigeria and waste their time and spoil their time because you are not drinking. So they give you free milk. But let me tell you, where does milk come from? Milk comes from cows, and we have cows. What does cows eat to give milk? It's grass and corn, and so we have grass and corn. Now, supplying milk to your people is an index of development. Now, let us just assume that our 200 million people, we will just not give 2 bottles, just 1 glass of milk. 1 glass of milk is approximately 100 naira. Now, if you give 1 glass to 200 million people at 100 naira, it's a 20 billion naira industry per day. In 30 days, it's a 600 billion naira. That is 1 month. In 10 months in a year, it's a 6 trillion naira industry. Only 1 glass of milk per person in Nigeria, 200 million people. And this is only milk. Who are the custodians of milk today? They are Fulani people. And they are the poorest of the poor, to the extent that we are even becoming dangerous because of the poverty is too high. See opportunity, no knowledge. And therefore, that particular opportunity becomes disastrous. But how do you get cows to produce milk? You breed them, you cross them, you select their genetics. That is knowledge, and we have it. We are not using it. How do you get a cow to get pregnant on time and deliver on time? You artificially inseminate it. You allow it to stay in a good housing. That is knowledge. We have it, we are not using it. How do you get a cow to deliver well and then start giving you milk? You have to feed it well. You have to make sure that the medicine and the medication is there. That is knowledge. We have that knowledge and we are not disposing it. Therefore, at the end of the day, the cows in Europe that produces this milk has udder like this big. Those type of cows cannot walk for 10 meters. It is very uncomfortable. How come that our cows can travel for 1,000 kilometers? because they are not carrying others. To carry that other, you need knowledge. We have the knowledge, but our cows are not carrying others. This is the subject matter of this. Knowledge we have, but it's not working. We have cows, it's not giving us milk. At the end of the day, it's even becoming a trouble. So in summary, this is what I'm submitting. We need to open our eye and realize that we have a building and road research institution in Ota. Some of you have got DSTV manual. If you open the manual at the back, you see hydroform. They are the ones doing interlocking bricks. Do you know that that technology comes from Ota? It's a Nigerian technology. They came here, they learned about it, they took it to South Africa, they developed that knowledge to solve their housing problem. They developed that to solve their schooling problem. We are still sitting here with our own knowledge and prototypes, and it is not working for us. This has to stop. So I can go on and on and on and on. But then before I stop, I have to recognize Yauri is my boss. Yauri, he's now in NIPS. And then a chief, my own father, Sir Amana, Oga, I greet you. Grema is there somewhere. Alaji Grema is my boss now. Afam used to be my boss. Jimson used to be my boss too. Engineer Shagaya is permanently my boss. KLM is my boss. Wambai is my brother, is there. Khalil Sajo is there also. Robinson is a spokesman, used to be my boss. Engineer Guarzo will remain my boss forever. So, and many others, they're all here.
And you are my boss now.
No, sir.
You are my boss now, sir.
So, this is the subject matter, Ben. Nigerians have to open eye. It's not about arguing on engineering or whatever. Technocrats must realize that when you are a researcher, research on what is useful that can help your people. When you are a technocrat, a technologist, a designer, an architect, design things that can help your people. When you are an innovator or a marketer or whatever, innovate and market things that can help your people. This is the only way we can solve this big problem. Otherwise, poor people that you see, these are Almajiris that you see on the street, they are 15 years now. They have no shoes, they have no house, they are not eating well. In 10 years, they will be 25. I leave you with this. You know what will happen. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Engineer Dr. Umar, who have been there for your wonderful submission. I want to sincerely thank you for your presentation today. And for those who are joining us for the first time, this is a monthly presentation. When I was doing my introduction before we started, I told you that in February we discussed about how to solve the problem of the steel industry in Nigeria using a Jokuta Steel Company as a focal point. Last month was on power situation in Nigeria, the way forward, and we had engineer Professor A.S. Sambu as the presenter. The first presentation on steel was Engineer Otis Anyeji, who was the first indigenous consultant on our Jokuta State Power Plant. And today we have Engineer Dr. Umar Bindir. You can attest that he has done justice to this presentation. And our time is actually 1 hour, 30 minutes presentation and the 1 hour interactive section. That's question and answer. And if you look at the time, you know that it's just some few minutes after 1. We are going to be wrapping it up for today. And for all of you who have attended this program, we are going to be sending the recorded clip to all of us so that we can also, for those who didn't join us on time, so that you can also have a copy of the presentation. But before we go, let me also acknowledge some of our big organs that joined us when we started. We had the group managing director of NNPC, Malam Mele Kiari, who joined us from the onset. I think he has left now. Engineer Professor Peter Onwalo, the former DG of Raw Material Research and Development Commission, joined us. And we have Engineer Professor Yopele Beredugo, who also joined us all the way from Port Harcourt. We have Professor Atawodi, who joined us. Edet Amana, Engineer Sir Dr. Edet Amana, also the CEO of Amana Consultants. He joined us, and Engineer Lanre Shagaya, also of Yolas Consultants. He joined us also for this. Engineer Margaret Oguntala, past Vice President of the Nigerian Site of Engineers. I also saw Engineer Basi Okwa. He joined us. Engineer Zachary Momo, Engineer Yakubu Aligaroba, Vice President of the Nigerian Site of Engineers. Engineer Christopher Nachibo, former Secretary of Transport FCT, and Engineer Felix Ibito Kilo Modemo, Vice President, Nigerian Site of Engineers, and a host of other senior colleagues and distinguished personalities who joined us. On behalf of every one of us, I say a very big thank you to all of us for participating in today's lecture. And I pray that the month of May shall be brighter and better and bigger for all of us. Once again, thank you and have a very wonderful day. I remain yours sincerely, Engineer Ben O.C. Oko, Fellow of the Nigerian Site of Engineers, the moderator. Have a beautiful day. Thank you.
Everybody, bye-bye. Oga Aliu.
Yes, sir. Ranka dade, sir.
Bye.
Bye-bye, sir. Muna emulating, sir. Za mu emulating.
Oga Prof, Professor